Have you ever heard of a place where people just vanish? Not in some remote, uncharted wilderness, but in the seemingly peaceful Green Mountains of Vermont. Today we're venturing into the heart of one of America's most chilling mysteries, the Bennington Triangle. Between 1945 and 1950, this forested area surrounding Glastenbury Mountain became the epicenter of a series of bizarre and unexplained disappearances. It wasn't just one person, but at least 5 individuals who walked into these woods and were never seen again. What's truly strange is that these weren't all unprepared hikers. They were experienced woodsmen, college students, and even a child. Our story begins in November 1945 with 74-year-old Mitty Rivers, an experienced hunter and fishing guide. Rivers knew these mountains like the back of his hand. He was leading a group of 4 other hunters up the slopes of Glastenbury Mountain. At one point, he got slightly ahead of his group, and when they reached the spot where they last saw him, he was gone. The only trace ever found was a single rifle cartridge in a nearby stream. An extensive search involving hundreds of volunteers and the army turned up nothing. It was as if the forest had simply swallowed him whole. Just over a year later, in December 1946, the Triangle claimed its next victim. Paula Jean Weldon, an 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College, decided to go for a hike on the long trail. She told her roommate she was going for a long walk, and several people saw her that day. A local couple gave her directions, and an elderly man saw her on the trail itself. She was dressed in a distinctive red parka, making her easy to spot. But after she rounded a bend in the trail, she was never seen again. The search for Paula Weldon was one of the largest in Vermont's history. The college closed down, students and faculty joined the search, and even the FBI was called in. But despite the massive effort, not a single clue was ever found. No scraps of clothing, no footprints, nothing. The case gained national attention, highlighting the eerie nature of this corner of Vermont. The lack of evidence was baffling. How could a young woman in a bright red coat disappear from a well-trodden path without a trace? The mystery deepens. 3 years to the day after Paula Weldon vanished in December 1949, a veteran named James Tedford disappeared. But his case is perhaps the strangest of all. Tedford, a resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home, had been visiting relatives in another town. He boarded a bus to return to Bennington. Witnesses saw him on the bus, asleep in his seat. The bus made its journey without any long stops. But when it arrived in Bennington, James Tedford was gone. All of his luggage was still on the overhead rack, and an open bus timetable lay on his empty seat. He had vanished from a moving bus, seemingly in thin air. He was last seen just one stop before Bennington, squarely within the area known as the Bennington Triangle. Less than a year later, in October 1950, the Triangle struck again. 8-year-old Paul Jeffson was accompanying his mother in a truck. She was a caretaker for a local dump, and she left her son playing happily near the vehicle while she attended to some work for about an hour. When she returned, Paul was gone. He was wearing a bright red jacket, just like Paula Weldon. A massive search party was organized, and bloodhounds were brought in. The dogs were able to follow Paul's scent from where he was last seen, down a local road, and to the very spot where Paula Weldon had disappeared 4 years earlier. And there the trail went cold. The dogs became confused and simply circled, unable to pick up the scent any further. Paul was never found. The final official disappearance occurred just 16 days after Paul Jeffson vanished. Frida Langer, a 53-year-old experienced hiker, was walking with her cousin near the Somerset Reservoir. She slipped and fell into a stream, getting her clothes wet. She decided to head back to their campsite to change, telling her cousin she'd be right back. It was a short, familiar walk, but she never made it. Her cousin waited, and when she didn't return, he went back to the campsite, only to find it empty. Initial searches found nothing. For months it seemed Frida had suffered the same fate as the others. But then, 7 months later, in May 1951, her body was found. This is the only case where a victim was ever recovered. However, her discovery only added more questions. Her body was found in an area that had been searched extensively and repeatedly in the weeks following her disappearance. Searchers were adamant that her body was not there before. Furthermore, the state of her remains was such that a cause of death could not be determined. Why did it take so long to find her, and in a place that had already been thoroughly combed. So what is going on in the Bennington Triangle? Over the years, theories have ranged from the logical to the truly out there. Some believe a lone, clever predator was responsible, using the dense woods to cover their tracks. But this doesn't explain James Tedford's disappearance from a moving bus. Others point to the harsh and unpredictable Vermont weather. Could the victims have simply gotten lost and succumbed to the elements? It's possible for some, but it seems unlikely for experienced woodsmen like Mitty Rivers, or for the body of Frida Langer to appear months later in a previously searched area. Local lore and Native American legends offer other explanations. These mountains have long been considered sacred and mysterious. Some stories speak of a man-eating stone that is said to swallow anyone who steps on it. Other legends tell of wild, hairy catamounts, or even Bigfoot-like creatures roaming the forests. And then there are the more paranormal theories. Some researchers, noting the strange electromagnetic anomalies reported in the area, have suggested portals to another dimension or even alien abduction. UFO sightings have been reported in and around Glastenbury Mountain for decades. Could these disappearances be connected to something not of this world? The term Bennington Triangle was actually coined in the 1990s by a New England author named Joseph A. Citro, who brought these scattered, forgotten cases together and noticed the chilling pattern. The area itself, once a bustling logging town, is now a ghost town. The forests have reclaimed the land, and the eerie silence is broken only by the wind in the trees. To this day, the Bennington Triangle remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. 5 people vanished, 4 without a single trace, all within a 5-year period in the same small geographical area. Was it a series of tragic coincidences, the work of a hidden predator, or something far, far stranger? The woods hold their secrets close, and perhaps we'll never know the full truth. The stories serve as a haunting reminder that even in familiar landscapes, mystery can be just around the corner. What do you think happened to the lost souls of the Bennington Triangle? Let me know your theories down in the comments below. I read every single one.